Our first step is to put technology for HVAC on units so we can detect issues before a customer figures out the system is down.
From our experience, focusing on the right problem statement isn't enough if you're developing from outside the market. We really understood what hinders the growth and how to leverage technology better. We're looking at growing your market share, growing your services, making them better.
Everything that we have done in the industry from sort of that networking era, like with the Cisco, is really just the setup for AI.
We're back with another episode of The Down Low with Joe. I'm here with Louis, and we have two special guests, Marty and Maya, both from Easton Edge. Maybe to start, interesting backgrounds. You both have long storied careers in the smart buildings and commercial real estate technology space. Met. So maybe we'll start, Marty, if you just want to give a bit of an intro, and then we'll go to you, Maya.
That sounds good. So first of all, thanks, Joe and Louis, for having us. So fun to see what you guys are out there doing to keep the industry glued together. My name is Marty Ogram. I have been in the smart building HVAC industry for most of my career. I've done two startups that each led to a stint at the company that acquired us. So the first one was the core of the Mediator product that was sold to Cisco Systems. That was the foundation of their smart and connected real estate group. Really, that was in the era where everyone had their building systems and wanted to get access to those systems on the internet or a network. So, of course, Cisco made perfect sense in that era. And the second one, the team there that was involved with us with the Mediator, we saw what was coming with the cloud, and we realized that was now the next technology wave of now that you got access onto the internet, how do you get data into one single place? So we started Riptide and then sold Riptide to Turntide. And in Riptide, I would say probably one of the most important aspects of what we did was partner with Daikin, world's largest HVAC company. CEO of Daikin Applied sat on our board and helped guide us, really thinking about the problem set of connecting equipment and connecting systems from an HVAC point of view. And there at Turntide, we kind of carried the journey. I met Maya, and recently, last year sort of jumped off that bus to start something with Maya. So Maya, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, go for it, Maya.
So I've been a startup founder a few times. One company, really early AI, 2014, successfully sold out to Facebook. And only then really was introduced into the world of clean tech, property tech. And since then have fell in love with, technology for PropTech. And throughout that process kind of joined really early with Turntide, had a short stint as in private equity. So really understanding the space, joined Turntide, led that from really inception to a unicorn status. Throughout that process, met Marty, acquired their company. But I guess really understood how big this market is and how much opportunity there is in the intersection between technology and real estate, specifically focusing on the energy portion, which is just endless and continues to grow. Long time in HVAC, thanks to Marty, learning a lot there. But it's a wild opportunity area. Jumped off, like we talked about a year ago with Marty, to open up Easton Edge, and couldn't be happier about the changes that we're trying to drive here.
Yeah, and maybe it's great. And maybe before we get into Easton Edge, you've both been in the space for a long time. So you're right, the TAM, and I've seen all kinds of different estimates. How big is the TAM? But it's big. You have 6 million buildings, commercial buildings in America, and there's a lot more buildings outside of America. More HVAC in developing economies for sure. Continued use of HVAC in developed economies. More control, so on and so forth. But you could also argue we haven't seen a huge number of successful companies yet. We've seen a lot of companies. And time will tell, some of them will be successful. Maybe I would love both of your opinions on just why is that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Disagreeing is fine, of course. And then we can get into how that led you to start Easton Edge.
I'll take that, and I'd love Marty to being inside the market. I agree with you 100%. Start with that. It's a very fragmented market. From our experience, focusing on the right problem statement isn't enough if you're developing from outside the market. And that really led us to, our strategy in figuring out. When we left Turntide, we really understood what problem statement we want to focus on, what hinders the growth, and how to leverage technology better. But the major shift in our mindset was, how do you stand up a company that could achieve, a market share in a significant way? And that led our whole strategy to focus on acquisition versus, the VC route. I've been in VC route forever. We've done it. Investors are fantastic, but they're still outside of the market. When you're developing a product from outside of the market, you're pouring money into growth in a very kind of, let's say aggressive manner, but not necessarily from within. So when you look at product development and the growth perspective of things, we decided to take our idea and partner with the companies themselves by acquisition to develop from within these companies versus from the outside. I think that's the major shift that, we understood. We're calling it kind of like a PE plus, some type of an embedded innovation. It's really difficult especially when you're talking about HVAC, they're super profitable. They don't have the drive or the incentive to enable to change behavior, which is really what we're trying to do here. And coming to them from the outside and trying to sell them that is almost impossible. Not even considering the demographics and just the level of change or the velocity of change in terms of companies moving hands. There's just not that go-to-market strategy that usually exists when you create a product that solves problems. Doesn't really apply to this type of a market.
Marty, anything to add? Yeah, please.
I've had too many postmortems in my head about this market and why things are slow, and we didn't see like the VC expectation of hockey stick growth across anybody. I think that's doing smart building, smart analytics. I kind of got it down to two buckets. One is there's still a lot of friction in getting things connected into buildings or building systems or HVAC. It's not cheap. It's not easy. And the friction there weighed with what is essentially, I'm going to kind of take some self-criticism here, of incremental improvements. It hasn't been game changing enough that gets the motivation to like, I'm going to push through all that friction of getting something smart and connected because I've got this massive upside benefit. So I think that's part of it. We have shifted our thinking from the building owner operators or sort of the FM generalist point of view and decided to go laser focused on HVAC services because we think that they are the heart of the industry of making sure that the building and the HVAC is the heart of it. So making sure that's running well and try to take that approach so that we're not sort of stuck in having to be a master of all systems, a master of everything in a building, and hope that we can make more of a leapfrog improvement than incremental.
You touch on both of you, I should say, touch on a lot of interesting points because sometimes I like to think the integration, the friction you described, I think eloquently, Marty, that's almost like a certainty, right? I'm not sure exactly how long it will take to implement a system or exactly what will go wrong or what will take time, but I know something will. And on the other side, you could say the value, right? I get that there's an ROI here, but maybe it's not quite as strong as you thought. So you're kind of trading this certain costs, uncertain benefits. Right. And I think it also leads to the point you were making, Maya. Once you have a customer and you serve them well, and that's really technology, services, hardware across buildings, you usually keep them for a long time. So the churn is just not nearly as high as you might expect, which is the other point. If you're taking a VC model and saying, we're just going to spend a lot on sales and marketing, it's still going to be hard to get people over the bump of, well, I have a vendor who does that today and they're pretty good. Why would I move? Why would I switch? So the switching costs are an issue. So all interesting. Maybe introduce us a little bit to what you're doing specifically at Easton Edge.
I have to credit not only Daikin, but the Daikin partners that we worked with closely over the past 5 years, that we watched a business, coming from the controls perspective, where you're like, oh, it's easy to get things connected and have data coming out. and then stand in the shoes of the HVAC service company that really aren't seeing the data out of these expensive and critical machines was pretty alarming. And looking at the jobs that they do that are very manual today, like there's, you're still driving to a site to figure something out. You got to use your brain to see what's wrong with the system. Like it's just about as manual as when HVAC was invented. Hasn't much changed. It gave us the eye there that it's a right space to bring what we think is going to be leapfrog transformation into that industry. So it's an area we're completely excited about.
I'd add that one of the things that stuck with us when we left Turntide was that, with all these technologies out there, there's no shortage of solutions. There are a lot of people kind of like dabbling in the space. The one problem that no one is really trying to fix, or at least from our knowledge, is the actual people problem. When you look at an HVAC contractor, the thing that they will tell you that is capping their growth and capacity to develop is just there aren't enough technicians, and the ones that they have take too long to become proficient in this industry, and the rapid changes make it even extremely harder to do your work really well. So when you look at all the areas of opportunity that seem to really shine as a opportunity area for us to focus on how do we double the capacity of the technicians by providing good technology in their hands versus focusing on the buildings and the other types of solutions that are already out there. How do you focus on that technician and make them do a better job, faster, cheaper for the customer? We come from a customer centricity standpoint, not only for profitability for these companies and higher margins, but also for just a better workplace and a better customer experience from an end user's perspective. That's really what started this whole thing.
And you look at these issues, especially around staffing, that problem is likely to get worse before it gets better, which means if you can kind of build the model today, that moving forward. And you could say on the acquisition front, I would imagine, I haven't seen actual data, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if there's just, succession planning doesn't always exist when you're a small HVAC company, right? So if there are more people looking for what's the next step, I don't have children that want to take over the business, you have kind of the trend in the market on the staffing side will potentially help you in two ways. One, more opportunities, targets, and then also just the value of what you're doing increases, not decreases.
Absolutely. You're looking at these companies that have, even the profitable ones, they sell to private equity, which is, kind of the natural move, but nothing really changes from what Marty said, right? The MO of running these companies and trying to grow, targets could only come from just financial engineering, or a worse customer experience by jacking up prices. Really, those are the only two things, besides some, efficiencies throughout the roll-up. We're looking at growing the business, leveraging technology, not only from an efficiency standpoint. And that's really why we thought that the roll-up structure makes so much sense, because you can really take that business case that we're working on from a technology perspective and put it to work and showcase it through a roll-up that takes that PE model, takes whatever is great about the PE model, but adds a whole different type of innovation perspective that drives margins and drives, top line revenue growth, which is the only part that the PE model does not have. They look at shrinking, the expenses and consolidation. We're looking at growing, your market share, growing your services, making them better. So we're taking both kind of strategies, combining them into one, and understanding that it's almost impossible to sell that to an HVAC contractor if you're not demonstrating that yourself as an owner.
It seems like a big component here is investments in technology focused on the owners and the operators of the actual service businesses. Maybe share a little bit more on that strategy, that approach, the technology there, and because I think that's fascinating and also just a really strong differentiator.
Sure. So first step was, instead of like all of our careers, we've been out making picks and shovels and selling them to people who are out digging. We said, we're going to dig. we're going to make picks and shovels, but we're also going to use them and dig first, and then make sure we've got the size of the hole right and all those parameters. So first thing we did is go out and look for a company to acquire as our foundation. We're closing our first acquisition right here at the end of the year, up in Seattle, Washington, and it's a commercial services firm, has a great base of service clients that they rely on, which will be now our company, to do preventative maintenance services. They go there just like we know everybody else does 4 times a year, do minors 2 times a year, major visits 2 times a year. And so that is a strong services base, reoccurring services based business. So with that in mind, our first step is to put, technology, like we'll call it a Fitbit for HVAC, on units, so we can detect issues before a customer figures out the system is down. That's step one. That's an area that we have all spent a lot of time in. The market has a lot of technology for that. Unfortunately, nobody has really brought it to market in a very cheap and easy way. Still holistic, like there's lots of things out there that get some data, but we got to get the richness of data, and we've got to make that cheap and easy. So that's step one. And then second part of that is getting that data in. How do we apply AI to be able to detect both, preventative, prescriptive, any kind of diagnostics, and then empower the tech so that we're not just kicking out problems, but guidance how to fix. And I know
I think the workflow, right? Creating that workflow, right. Marty, right? Workflow.
So everybody is following this, high-speed train of AI that we have whiplash watching announcement after announcement, especially this week, where you have OpenAI doing their 12 days of shipment. So where new, like really leapfrog things are happening almost every single day.
Yeah,
and I feel personally that everything that we have done in the industry, from sort of that networking era, like with the Cisco, with the cloud era, is really just the setup for AI. And so our view is taking our HVAC service companies, focusing first on the maintenance and the repair side, and then bringing that in so that we can identify issues and empower tech, so they don't need 10 years of experience on a VRV or VRF system, but we can actually get all that manufacturer troubleshooting out in their hands in plain English. And ideally, they're just having a chat with their AI HVAC agent, helping them guide to fix it. That's our aim.
Yeah.
One of the things that, we're kind of learning just simplistically, we raise money, we go to investors and et cetera. And I love what Marty said. It's like everything that happened until now was just kind of like the pre to what we would call native AI solutions, right? And it's really hard to shift the solutions you have today to be native to AI, which we think is going to be the enabler to the technician like optimization, which is in essence the most expensive expense for an HVAC services firm. So all of the information and analytics you get out from, all of the systems out there, it still leaves out the most expensive, wager oriented person that needs to then do work and do it really well. So we're that native AI kind of approach that we're taking and building that outside of the, whatever the systems are today, looking at raw data, looking at what we can do, kind of going around the controls, because we know what that means, being controls, is the focus. And it's been the speed of things is just, phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Louis. Yeah, you go, please.
Just taking a step back to the acquisition, and by the time this episode goes live, hopefully that's all gone through. You mentioned one of the pieces as to why you acquired that business. Can you talk us through a little bit about the kind of the size and the market area within Seattle and why that made sense as well?
Sure. So actually, Easton Edge ambition is a larger roll-up, where we have a plan for 10 to 12 acquisitions over the next couple of years. We started in Seattle because one of our partners, Mike Wilson, lives there, and he's a domain expert. The one that we're closing kind of came on our lap opportunistically. So it's a smaller acquisition, under $5 million in top line revenue, about 10 to 12 techs. We do like the Pacific Northwest. It's a place where not everybody needed air conditioning. They all had boilers, but they don't all need air conditioning. So there's a lot of growth there. We have other acquisition targets there in that area that are larger and more of a platform size. So Maya is leading our fundraising effort to raise what looks kind of like a traditional PE focus on doing a roll up. And Maya, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we were opportunistic for grabbing this one because we wanted a sandbox. What happens is, we started doing the roll up strategy and the kind of like the deal flow and the M&A kind of planning out alongside, completely parallel to the development of the technology. And the technology is ready for testing, so actually it's ready for deployment. So what we wanted to do is quickly put our hands on at least first one, even though traditionally you buy a platform first. Just so we have a sandbox to test and kind of create that business case. We are in the process of raising the fund for the acquisitions. We have some really deep conversations. For us, it's more, being third, fourth time founder. It's finding the right strategic alignment with the investors more than just taking the money. So we have probably about 3 finalists that, we're kind of designing kind of a structure with. But the idea here is developing the technology inside these companies and leveraging 2 things that, are critical by acquisition to have. One is the data itself, because that really kind of puts you on a path to commercialization. If I have to look back on even my first AI company, right, we were focused on telecom. Every customer I had really kind of, if I didn't get that data in, I couldn't grow my AI capacity. So we're saying, no, we're not going to buy that. So we're not going to sell it, we're going to buy that data. But not less important is the deep expertise and domain knowledge within these companies to help us then train the model. So we're doing both. Deal flow exists. We're focusing on Pacific Northwest for the first kind of 3, probably a platform and 2 fold-ins, but Southern California is a big hotspot for us with our network. So is Arizona and a few other areas where we see a lot of growth potential, both in commercial, but in other industries as well, adjacent industries that are in high growth right now. So buying that data and being able to leverage the know-how within to commercialize the product faster in a more cost-effective manner. It's just better business, and allowing that roll-up to fund that strategy, and then not only create value, enterprise value by this roll-up being tech-enabled, but also having a commercialized product alongside that to then spin off later is really the strategy here.
And you don't often see these kind of roll-ups, at least. And again, I probably don't go as deep as what you two do, and that's probably why I'm in the talent space and not in the M&A space. But it makes sense, right? Like having tech-enabled businesses and also profitable service-based businesses and tying the 2 together, it's where the industry needs to go. So my question here is, why aren't we seeing more trends like that with the big private equity firms? Is it just as simple as their model doesn't need to break, or
I think the type of money invested really determines the use of proceeds, right? Venture is high risk. They invest in longer term strategies in tech. Private equity is the risk averse. They look at EBITDA and they model based on EBITDA and based on known facts. And that's kind of like where we're sitting in the middle saying, yeah, we have a business case for doing the roll up without the tech services, right? Without the tech addition. And, when you look at the roll up and the targets that we've created on the, M&A pipeline, any PE would decide to take that just because of the profit kind of ratio and what we're doing. But we want to leverage that to also commercialize technology. We think that, like I said, it's the right way to do it. It's the profile of the investor are very different for both those use of proceeds. And that's why we're looking for the strategic that understands the value of leveraging, right, the roll up for doing, for creating excellence and, continuing to develop the behavior change and use of technology to not only roll up and have consolidated, right, profits and kind of figure out the 5 or 10 points if you're phenomenal in marketing, right? We're looking at 30 points, right? The margin improvement tech is so crazy. It's really hard for them to model because they're not from this space.
Right? And I guess a big driver there, I mean, one of the things I've heard a lot as a product guy, product person with smart building technology is you go to a building and you say, well, here, this is what we can do. And a lot of times the answer is, I don't have time to use that because I have all these other things I have to do. But you seem to be changing that model and saying, no, when we come and fix your building, we're using the technology because it's in our interest, because it saves us time and money.
That's right.
So you building owner operator, hire us because we're going to get to value quite faster.
That's right.
You nailed it.
So,
and we, it's not just what we build. We do believe in the ecosystem. So we look forward to inviting anyone that has a digital focus with a technology or software that is helping to bring efficiency to the HVAC service company owners. Certainly we all saw Service Titan do their IPO last week and saw that was very client favorable. And so the field management software market is a good indication, I think, that the market is ready. They're seeing value in the back office. They're seeing value from marketing. Not really touching the work they're doing yet, but we do see that we would plug in there. We're big believers in what Salesforce is doing from their agent perspective. And certainly, they have Service Cloud, they have Field Service Cloud. Microsoft also, who is, leaders in AI, also have a field management side. So it'll be interesting to us, the dynamic of the sort of foundational software layer that becomes the backbone of an HVAC service company like a Service Titan, the Salesforce, and then, our side, which our lane will be really figuring out what's wrong with the system and guiding that repair. That's the lane that we want to be clearly innovating in first, and then plugging in others. We have other partners.
Descriptive workflow into the field management, right? Yep. They're fantastic in building that backbone, but still the information coming in.
There's
that makes sense.
We realize that there is that ecosystem that's to our advantage. And so we're both like digitizing HVAC service companies, plus there's pieces of that digitization that we're looking to innovate and push direction. We have a very small engineering team, which includes AI engineers. And we believe in small teams that, power of less than 5 can do, in fact, probably operate better than a large team. That's one of, I think, the learnings that we both have had in our experience of developing technology. So we'll keep it that way. And so it's for us, this is going to be a lot of fun. We are also inviting in a few other HVAC service firms, could be PE-backed, could be roll-up, to join us, kind of a Founders Innovation Club. One reason our motivation there is that we might not be able to buy and acquire and integrate companies fast enough, and we do want more data. And so we're looking at possibly 5, no more than 5 other companies to join us on this journey. And then we'll bring them in, bring their data in, and join us on this AI journey with us as well, so that we have that speed of acquiring data, because data obviously is the fuel of AI. We have their HVAC techs that become sort of AI trainers, and just take it up a little bit outside of just our own bubble, but have a group to aid us in nailing it before we scale out to the world. Eventually, that would be great, scale out to the world, but we want to be with our own, and then a few hand selected other mechanical contracting firms who are innovative thinkers.
Makes sense. One question, one or two other questions that pop into my mind. We talk a lot on this podcast, just in the industry, around just this broader goal of making systems more efficient, reducing carbon emissions. That's in some ways the big picture why we're doing what we're doing. You could argue there's a lot of other reasons, right? Giving people better tools to do their jobs, more purpose at work. That's a huge one, I think, as well. But when it relates to reducing carbon, reducing energy use, you could argue there's a bit of a gap between the building system and the broad, I have a portfolio, I have buildings, and I'm trying to kind of decline or reduce the overall footprint of my business. Thoughts there, because I would argue the more you get into the building, the more you realize like it's the compressor that is the problem, or it is you have to replace your whole HVAC system, or actually, you know what, you're nearly end of life. You should put a heat pump in to replace your old just like split system or old unitary system, whatever it might be. Like, I would just be interested in, is that part of the strategy? Thoughts there? Disagree that they're really big, they're separate? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I mean 100%, because and this we know for sure, and we have a partner technology company, DigiMEP, that is done out that focuses on bringing diagnostics to field techs with a mobile app, so it's when they're on site, not continuous side. What has shocked me that they have discovered after doing thousands of surveys and audits and health reports, spot health reports and equipment, is the unhealthy state of HVAC. And unfortunately, I have to say, even if they're under a preventative maintenance contract. So why is that happening? Well, it's back to the labor shortage. People are pushed for time. They don't have a lot. They're changing filters. They're cleaning coils. They're not necessarily making sure that it's delivering the airflow that customers pay for. They got a 5-ton systems. The biz should be pushing 5 tons of air. They don't really have a digital way to prove that that's happening or diagnose that's happening. So I think that the road to decarbonization starts with making sure that the equipment is operating in the high efficiency that you paid for. And that's going to require way more than just know-how. It's going to require digital tools. And then, second part of that story, with the push towards heat pumps, we saw this in the VRF technology. Whenever there's a new technology, it's complex stuff. Not every tech knows how to get it right the first time. So the installations, and Louis, last time I was with you at AHR, I remember one of the conferences they were talking about this, that, unfortunately, a lot of the heat pumps that are getting installed aren't being installed necessarily properly. So customers are later coming back and going, wait a minute, this is supposed to save me so much energy. What happened? And it goes down to, like, how do you know your install was done right? What kind of digital verification do you have besides sending the senior guy in the car to go follow and do a walkthrough after? So we do believe that that AI software, tools like DigiMEP, things like what we're building are going to help making sure that we're getting the efficiency that people are paying for in that new equipment. That has to be first and foremost.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. It's really interesting. Maybe the last one I have, Louis, unless you have anything, where can folks find both you, Maya, Marty, learn more about Easton? I imagine there will be more to announce once you have your first acquisition announced. But yeah, it's great.
Yep.
Marty, anything to add or?
We'll be at HR in Orlando in February, I'm sure, with you guys there. And it is definitely hard to sleep, in the sense of this is the most exciting time to be in technology now. And you feel like you almost don't have time to sleep because you have to keep up. I guess we have some advantage that the HVAC industry still has to, before they can be on the high-speed train, they've got to lay the railroad tracks. So we're still in that foundational side. We believe that being connected to every piece of equipment, having it streaming data, organize good data that's going to help you, that's, to us, the railroad tracks that still have to be laid. And so that will be our first focus. So anyone in the industry that is intrigued by what we're up to, wants to bring these advantages to their company, all we ask is that, bring an innovator's mindset or early adopters mindset. And we look forward to people with that mindset to go on the journey with us.
It's great.
Love it. Well, I think that's about all we've got time for today. Maya, Marty, thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting just picking your brain on what you guys are working on. And I think, just from my perspective, this, in theory, should be a big trend. If not, then it's just more potential for your business. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great to see you both.